I'm Dr. Jennifer Otter Bickerdike, and I'm the course leader at music journalism in London, BIMM. And today I'm lucky enough to be at BIMM Brighton. I've not been here before. It's a live studio with the charming and enchanting Phil Nelson.
We only met for the first time today, but I feel like I've known you for ages, Jen.
I feel very, very close. So Phil, what do you do here at BIMM Brighton, and what's your past? What brought you here?
On my business cards, it says the slightly embarrassing words, music industry ambassador. So really I carry around Ferrero Rochers and have meetings. That's pretty much all I do. But in all seriousness, I do actually have a portfolio career. And as I think the thing we'll hopefully get around to talking about is portfolio careers. It's kind of the way it's worked, and it's the way it works for most people, I think, in the music industry. I started off having had a career in modern classical music and grade 8 distinction bassoon player for anyone who needs that.
That's real then?
That's actually real.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I played the flute.
We could begin some sort of woodwind thing.
Yeah.
But I was living, sharing a flat with a couple of people in a band, and that band was called The Levellers, and they were starting to do really well in Brighton, so I sort of by mistake became a band manager. There were no BIMMs around in those days to teach you what a band manager was, and so I had to really learn as I went along and discovered that it was a fun career. It genuinely is a portfolio career, as we'll discuss, and so that was the full thing I did, was manage all sorts of different bands for ages. And then a few years ago, I can't really remember how many, 5 or 6, I started teaching first of all at a different college and now here at BIMM, where I mostly teach music business, but actually across all of the different disciplines. So part band manager and part teacher.
Oh.
How about you?
Renaissance man.
That's me.
I started out actually, similar to you, there was not a BIMM where I was growing up in California. And I remember when I was 18, I went to my university job career place and I'm like, I want to work in the music business. And it was like I said to them, I eat babies or something like that. So I was completely on my own and I went back to my house. I'll never forget it. I had like a spiral bound notebook and I wrote down all the music things that I knew. Okay. And this is before the interwebs. Mm-hmm. So it was like the radio station, MTV, and English record labels, and I was living in California, so there was no way I could go work for Nude, for example. So I started literally calling, this is when long distance cost money, I was calling New York, trying to get the phone number for MTV, just calling different places with absolutely no guidance. That's how I started off. And my first job was being the college marketing rep for Sony Music. So I was 18 and on tour suddenly with Red Hot Chili Peppers, Nirvana, and some other band I can't remember, but who cares, Nirvana was there. And I went on from that to be the head of marketing for Interscope Records, left Interscope to go work with Gwen Stefani and help her launch her clothing and handbag line. Okay. Went from that to go work at Facebook. And then as one does, I sold everything I own, moved to England and got a PhD at Goldsmiths. So it's been a cobbled together career, much like your own. Now I am on the brink of releasing my new book, Why Vinyl Matters, which is coming out in the fall, which I'm very excited about. So, and I'm the course leader of music journalism at BIMM in London.
So you yourself wear lots of hats?
I wear lots of hats, I do. I'd never heard of this portfolio career until recently. I just thought that I was schizophrenic. So how did you start describing yourself? Like, what is a portfolio career?
Well, I think it's one of those things where as the music industry has changed, so perhaps the language around the music industry has changed. I think there was a time, although it's always been highly competitive, but there was a time where you could say, I'm going to work in a record company or a publisher or be a promoter or be a singer or be a producer. And when you look at how people's careers either progress or how they respond to changes, getting fired, not earning enough money, suddenly I think so many of us actually need to either, we could say, wear lots of different hats or indeed have a portfolio career. And I suppose part of what we're talking about today is what this means and how you go about it, really. And I think certainly one of the interesting things about being a band manager is especially if you manage somebody at the very beginning, it forces you to be a portfolio manager from the beginning, because what you're really doing at the start is being mother, father, driver, record company, you're often putting out the records for the artists, their press officer, writing their biographies and their press releases, being their social media manager. You need all of these skills to be a manager. Luckily, if you've got a decent band...
We forgot therapists on the list.
Oh, you're a therapist. My goodness me, therapist. Stories there. Yeah. But, and I suppose, if you're a successful manager, gradually you hand these jobs to other people. A record company comes along, they have a press officer, they can afford a therapist, and you can just be the more traditional, whatever that means, manager. And I think one of the really exciting things about a college like BIMM, regardless, I suppose, of whether you're doing a degree as a performer or a songwriter or a business student or event manager, is you're not being kind of thrown down one path, which large walls at the side saying that's who you are and that's what you're going to do. The chances are you're going to need a lot of different experiences, either all at once, in order to actually have a salary so that you're making a little bit as a concert promoter and a little bit as a musician, or during your career, I would say, where something comes to an end and you don't want to go and work at Tesco's and you need to have other skills to pull out of your skill bag and keep you in the fantastic music industry.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the things that you said that I think is so important there is BIMM is unique compared to anywhere else. I've taught in America, I've taught at several different universities in the UK, and I've never been somewhere where they have such high-end executives, performers, artists coming on a daily basis into the building. And so the students can interact with people that are really at the top of their game and get a feel for different parts of the industry. So could you tell me, like, how do the different parts of the industry work together?
Well, I think that's it. I mean, I suppose the irony is that most of the people who teach here are also portfolio musicians or teachers that are actually doing more than one thing. And probably the second thing they're doing outside of what happens within these four walls is interacting with the industry and having those contacts. I think some of the other places that I've been to and seen at other colleges have the danger of being stuck in music business 1995, and as we both know, that was a very different place. And we'll talk a little bit later, I guess, about keeping up with the changes, which are so fast. But all of these different people who might be running their own synchronization company, looking at music for film, or they might be promoting festivals during the summer, they're networking with real-life individuals, and they're saying to them, oh, by the way, when you're not booking Glastonbury, would you mind giving up your Friday afternoon to come into to BIMM and talk to the students about what it's like to book Glastonbury? And I think getting those really, really high sort of high quality people is really important. And as you say, what it needs in order to do that is to actually understand what the music business is. The music business is a bit of a bizarre business. If you like logic and if you like justice, music industry is probably not the right place for you because it's just frankly backwards and stupid and illogical. But you can actually kind of start to kind of map it out into different areas. And obviously there'll be the fun areas, but sometimes I think you also need to have a portfolio understanding of the less fun areas. So I suppose to start off with, to keep things simple, I might divide the industry into three main things. The most fun bit for most of us is the creative side of things. That's where you're in the rehearsal rooms writing your songs. You're in the recording studios recording those songs or other people's songs if you don't write. Your producers are probably don't ever see daylight and they're in there the whole time. The synchronization world I talked about putting music to visuals, to film and games and so on. That's 1/3, if you like, and that's the third that probably we have the most fun of. But once you've made all this music, people have got to be able to hear it, so the second third is the wonderful world of sales, of marketing, of actually cutting through the 100,000 acts that are out there and making sure that you get heard. And so you've got the old style marketing of press and radio and TV and magazines and all that side of things, which does matter, but then you've got the great disruptors. Everything that happens on the internet, which is changing so fast, all of the digital magazines and the e-commerce side of things and the social media, having a portfolio career where you're doing something in the fun stuff and you're doing something in the sales stuff might be really clever. Final side of things, maybe the dullest side of all, but really necessary, is protecting your music and getting paid.
Crucial.
And again, so many people kind of don't want to understand that, but if you don't understand that, are you going to actually make sure that your music is monetized? So the lawyers and the accountants and be able to read royalty statements and understand contracts. And it might feel quite dry, but we're really good at, I think, demystifying it here and making it sort of not quite the scary kind of can't I leave that to my manager side of things. Obviously we can go deeper into that, but there's a whole load of hats there just to start off with, I suppose.
Just saying this, and there's one thing I've really seen from working with artists is the more information you understand and how to manage your career, the more powerful you're going to be. Because you're not at somebody else's mercy. You actually understand what's going on and where your money is going.
Yes.
Which kind of actually leads me to another thing. If we're looking at that creative side especially, what is going on here in Brighton, and I can kind of go into London, in terms of opportunities if someone were to come to BIMM Brighton?
We can get competitive here, Jen.
Child, you don't want me to do that.
Well, okay, I suppose Brighton can't necessarily beat London, but I think
It
Brighton
is
possibly.
beautiful.
Oh, it can beat for beauty, but I think Brighton possibly can beat most other cities in the UK in terms of just how much is going on here. Certainly in terms of per head of population. I think there are more musicians in Brighton, probably per head of population, than anywhere else in the world. Sometimes I think that it's illegal to walk along Western Road unless you've got a guitar on your back. There's so many of us there, which makes it really exciting. So, as you say, we have the lots of opportunities for work-based learning and for going and doing internships and so on, because we've got brilliant studios here. We've got Brighton Electric, where Royal Blood have made a lot of their stuff. We've got the studio that I started with the Levellers called the Metway, where BIMM take over the studios and actually teach people how to be producers and teach the industry how the producers work and so on. I manage a studio just down the road in Eastbourne called Echo Zoo, which I obviously think is brilliant. Paul McCartney made a record there. So we have all these great studios, rehearsal rooms, labels. There's so much happening. It's like the way you need to sort of look at your city. If you're lucky enough to have a music city, it's a kind of a little microcosm of the national industry or even the international industry. And okay, so you know, Brighton has great labels like True Thoughts and Fat Cat. We used to have Skint, where Fatboy Slim came from. It
Bella
really
Union.
is. Say again?
Bella Union.
And Bella Union, Simon Raymond, who
Yeah.
runs Bella Union, is based down here as well, and he's been in a number of times. He played in the Cocteau Twins, now he runs one of the coolest labels. So we do quite well. Now Jen's going to tell me how brilliant London is.
Well, I have to say, as you know, I love Brighton. I absolutely love it here, and I completely am jealous that you're living here. But everything's in
the
London.
but.
That's right. As a California girl, I have to say, I am constantly bragging to everyone that will listen to me, and even those that don't want to, about the fact that our production students get to go to, yes, I'm going to say it, Abbey Road. Yes, it's true. And right now, we have students working at Kerrang, we have students working at NME on the journalist side. You know, there's a lot of different PR companies, event companies, too many to list, actually. So it's absolutely amazing. And just one of the things that's great about the music journalism program is that we really try to train people, not just for press, because you said press is important, the old-fashioned way, but to do other things, vlogging, blogging, TV,
absolutely.
those
Yeah.
sorts of things. That's
Yeah.
really hugely important in the music journalism program.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think obviously London is going to win. Brighton's obviously only 48 minutes on the train, and Bristol, luckily with my ambassadorial hat on, I wish it was a real hat. Maybe I should ask for that.
You don't need a hat with that amazing hair.
That's very nice of you.
Yeah.
We'll talk about your hair later.
That's right.
But Manchester, an amazing music scene. Bristol, amazing music scene. About to start stuff in Birmingham, which has lagged behind a little bit in the past, but it's looking really exciting right now. And I think that the joined up way in which each city has a slight different musical flavour is great. And I think one of the things that I'm really excited about what we're doing in Brighton at the moment within BIMM, because we have over 1,000 students here, is creating our own kind of micro industry which relates to and works with the grown-up industry. So we're just starting a student-run label, and it's really important to me that us adults are kind of at one remove from this. And so they named the label. It's called Poole Valley Recordings. Some of you might know that Poole Valley is the name of Brighton's bus station, which doesn't sound very exciting. It is. But it was also the second ever single on Creation Records was by a Brighton band called Blow Up, called Poole Valley, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So talking of cool, we have the in-house designer at XL Recordings, home of Radiohead and the XX and Adele. She's designed the logo. It's really cool. We've got student A&R squads who've gone out and signed 8 different acts. Most of whom are actually at BIMM, but not all of them. They've put together release campaigns, and they've got a little bit of money to do that with. And so across the summer, through a fantastic distribution company based in Brighton called Republic of Music, who do You Me at 6 and all sorts of other people, they're actually the back end of the stuff. So suddenly, in a very kind of real way, we're building something with authenticity and credibility. And we're getting the journalist students to actually do the PR on the label, to write the biographies and the press releases for the acts, so they join in that way. And the event students are putting on the shows that the bands are doing to promote their releases. And we're hoping that some of the production students will produce the releases. So suddenly, the joined up thinking means that there is a little sort of micro music industry. And I love the idea that somebody like Sony will come along and go, yeah, can we buy your label? And we'll say, nope, because we're doing quite well ourselves, thank you very much. So that thing of making sure it's not just about the classroom, and obviously there's stuff you have to learn in the classroom, but it's actually getting your hands dirty and going out there and doing it. Being able to fail safely, I think, is part of it. So if it doesn't go brilliantly, no one's going to laugh at you, because so often, and I think that part of the fun for me is that there aren't any rules. Yeah, if somebody puts a single campaign together, it might be better than the one that I might put together, because we're talking about an industry that's changing so fast that those executives earning 150 grand a year or possibly more, they don't necessarily know better than our students. That I think is really quite exciting.
Well, you brought something up a second ago. How can students engage in the live music industry here in Brighton?
I think we're lucky enough again to have so many great little entry-level venues. I mean, a great music city, and that's one of my big things, has a sort of a venue ladder. So that if you're the smallest band in the world, you can go and play a venue which only fits 30 people and, you know, bring your friends and your relations, and then gradually work up the venue ladder all the way to, at the moment, the biggest venue in Brighton is called the Brighton Centre, which many people have heard of or been to gigs. We're hoping to get an arena built right next to the marina, bizarrely, but that hasn't started yet. And so there's a venue called the Green Door Store, which we pretty much have students promoting their own shows every Monday night, and they're picking the bands, they're doing the marketing, they're doing that stuff, and they're selling these things out. Makes me feel a bit embarrassed as a manager. I can't always sell out the gigs that my bands are doing, and so it's so exciting when you come in on a Tuesday and they're all sitting there looking a bit the worse for wear, but being able to say, do you know what, we made 600 quid for charity last night at our sold out gig, and I'm thinking, okay, you're doing better than I am.
So there's tons of different things they can be doing than here, for sure.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, that we've got, I mean, one of the other things I think is really worth mentioning is probably the Great Escape Festival, and I was lucky enough to be one of the founders of that. And I think what happened really with the Great Escape was a lot of us will have heard of a festival called South by Southwest. How many times have you been, Jen? I bet you've been.
Too many to count.
Yeah,
it makes me sad, actually, because it's become not really about music anymore.
Well, it's just too big.
It's too big, yeah.
And I think we kind of realised that this thing had become too. It's the sort of festival rather than the Glastonbury sort where you're camping in a field. This is the city sort where any sort of venue that can be turned into any building that can be turned into a venue is actually turned into a venue, and so you've got 10,000 things happening. So we thought we should set up a Brighton version which would be manageable and just bring things down to how they should be. It's been running for about 10 years now, so most of the music industry come to Brighton in the last weekend of May. It's a great place to network, a great place to discover new music. There's a fantastic conference side of things, and we really encourage our students, again from every discipline, to get involved. Again, it's that portfolio thing where you might have come to BIMM to be an event manager and you're kind of thinking, God, I don't know whether I like events anymore, and so suddenly you can volunteer for the panel side of things, or you can go and network with the labels. A lot of people do get an opportunity to kind of go, well, I arrived at BIMM as the best drummer in Lincoln, and now I've realised I'm the 31st best drummer at BIMM, but maybe I want to go and work in social media or whatever it might be. And I think we might have some questions.
I was going to say. Well, here's a question that I think is really good, and it sounds like how you and I kind of started out. What advice, Phil, would you give to the 17-year-old you about creating a career in the music industry, given what you know now?
It is a really good question. I suppose I would answer it by actually trying, within reason, everything when it comes to music. The whole thing of actually saying, well, how do you really know what you're good at? How do you really know what you really like until you try stuff? And again, I think it goes back to what I was saying about starting up the label and stuff here early. So it is that thing of if you know, even if you're in a tiny little town with very little going on, there might be a pub that does music. Go and talk to the guy behind the sound desk. Find out who it is who puts on the gigs. Find out if you can actually come along and write a review for it, and start up a little fanzine. Be entrepreneurial in some way. It's quite scary, perhaps, if you're not the sort of person who this comes naturally to as a 17-year-old. But even that idea of just starting up your own little blog, which maybe only you and your sister read to begin with, and actually posting the review of the band you saw in the local pub on Saturday, that's the start. Mm-hmm. And then somebody else might read it, or you might post a link from your Facebook page and somebody else reads it, and things spiral from that. And it's that thing of, if you don't start doing something, I suppose no one can react to what you do. Obviously, you know, you could say something a bit too obvious, like come to BIMM. That's obviously part of it, but it's that thing of starting to feel entrepreneurial that I think, and be excited about what comes from it, and not having too much fear, and understanding it's not always going to go right. I mean, I've managed lots of bands and they haven't all been successful, and you have to be able to kind of pick yourself up when something doesn't go really well and try something else. But I think we all have that sort of opportunity. Learn what you're good at and learn what you like.
Here's one that I can absolutely relate to. How did you explain to your parents you wanted to work in music, and what was their reaction? I remember that conversation very well. But
well, you go first. You go first.
To be honest, my parents were not happy that I was going to go work in music. I was going to one of the top universities in America, And I said, this is what I'm passionate about, this is what I want to do. And my dad said he was incredibly disappointed in me. Now, that sounds like a very sad story, but literally 2 years later, when I'm touring around with Nirvana, Red Hot Chili Peppers, my dad's the guy that's like any penny that's busking on the street. He's like, my daughter works in the music business. And I think if you show your parents how excited you are, how fulfilled you are, and it's a career that goes the distance, it's something you're passionate about, that's the part that I think is really important. And seeing how passionate I was about it, I think that, and if I didn't try, I always would have been wondering.
Oh gosh, yes.
And that's the really kind of thing. I think there's so much fear people have around it.
Well, I think again, a bit like what I said earlier about the fact that most people, and I include actually people in the industry, don't really understand what the music business is. And if you're the mum and dad who sort of says, well, Keith's doing this course to get into the music business, I don't really know what the music business is.
Exactly.
And I've heard it's in trouble, and I've heard it's all music's being stolen and piracy, and it's all going to be a disaster. That's problematic. I mean, one of the great things about 2017 is actually that the music industry is in a very fast turnaround. It is true that between about 2000 and 2015 was a bit, in some ways, it was a bit of a grim place. Everything was shrinking, there were less jobs, the music often that was being churned out was quite dull because everyone was being really safe. But here we are suddenly in a time when, thanks to Spotify and streaming and all sorts of other things, it's growing again. And that's a really exciting time for undergraduates who are going to be chucked out into this industry in 2 or 3 years' time to become the bosses of tomorrow, because they're going to be in places where risks can be taken and exciting music can be signed and rules are there to be broken. And so, yes, I can totally understand parents who feel a bit out of their depth. And even I've had lots of success as a manager, but even now my mum is much more proud of me about what I do here than what I do in my management office. And sometimes I say, Mum, it's harder being a manager. But no, she says, oh, I love it because I can tell all my friends that you're a lecturer.
No, I was going to say it's funny because my mother-in-law, God bless her, I've told her all the things I've done in the music business, but somebody made a Wikipedia page for me, and she stumbled upon it, and she was like, "Oh, Jennifer, you didn't tell me you did that." And I think it was an important moment because I think saying I work in the music business, it has almost like this Wizard of Oz person behind the curtain, and when you start really breaking it down, that's Spotify, that's iTunes, that's YouTube, it's all these different avenues that weren't there when you and I may have been coming up, you know.
Exactly,
so it's a little different thing. How does being a woman affect you getting into the industry, or how you got into the industry? How did that affect you?
I think I might let you answer that one actually, Jen.
I would say the most important thing about being a woman is that there still is, believe it or not, quite a bit of stereotypes, and there's the higher up you go, the fewer women that you do see. So a big thing I can say to anybody, man, boy, girl, man, female, anything in between, is to just have a very strong brand identity from the beginning of who you are and what your unique selling point is, and don't stray from that at all.
And yeah, I'd be very proudly say that 2 of my assistants, one of them whose name is now Maria May, because she's married, I think was voted as one of the top 20 most influential people in the dance scene in the world. She's Paul Oakenfold's booking agent, other people, and the other one who actually did come to BIMM, Natasha Bent, she's now booking agent for Foles and for Amy MacDonald, and was booking agent of the year last year. And I'm not saying that I quite taught them everything that they know, but they're earning 10 times what I'm earning now, and I'm thrilled for them. It is
changing. It's changing on a lot.
It is definitely getting better.
I would say, I mean, what your example tap into too, though, is how important the network is. And I say this to my students all the time. I say, from the moment you get to BIMM, from the moment you walk into the bar and say, "Can I write a review?" That's your network.
Yep.
And I mean, I still talk to people that I was a college rep with at Sony when I was 17, 18 years old. I'm sure you're the same sort of thing. So, I mean, not that that's anything to do with being a woman or a guy, but just networking and being strong and proud of who you are from the beginning. And these people, the network in the music business is not very big, is it?
It certainly shrunk for a while. It's going to get bigger again now. But I think, again, I would say that in my music business and event management classes, I have more women than men, or girls than boys, whichever way you like. And there definitely is a sea change. There are certainly some things like drummers and bassists, there's still a bit of a kind of a bias going on. But in a lot of the other areas, it's really exciting to see things really moving on.
So let's do one more. How do you think the industry might change in the future?
Wow. How long have we got?
Yeah,
how are we going to do that in 5 minutes? Well, I think the whole change thing, we kind of touched on it earlier. There are all sorts of free, and some of them cheap, but you have to pay for, tools online that I would ask anybody who's thinking of signing up to a course at BIMM or anywhere else to do with music that they should sign up to. And I'm going to say what some of them are, so get your pen and paper out. There's something called Music Business Worldwide. Google that. There's something called CMU, Complete Music Update. There's something called Record of the Day, which costs a few quid to subscribe to. But what they do is they give you a daily almost email showing you how things are changing. And things are changing so fast that I will often use the first half of my lecture to talk about what happened yesterday, not last week or last month, but literally yesterday. It's like 20 different soap operas are going on at the same time that we have to keep up with in terms of what's going on with YouTube, and is Pandora going to go bust, and who's going to buy Spotify, and other major labels doing better than the indies when it comes to streaming, and all these things which, once you get to understand the dialogue and the narrative of them, are genuinely interesting. And if you're the sort of person who is keeping up and then goes for a job interview and can talk knowledgeably about what's going on with these companies, you're going to be in the front of the queue against everyone else who just hasn't actually really engaged with these sorts of things. So everything's changing. It's kind of a weird one, because I was with my friend, name drop, who manages Rag and Bone Man a couple of days ago, and he's obviously probably, after Ed Sheeran, the second most successful person right now, but his fan base is buying CDs still and vinyl, whereas the likes of Stormzy and Skepta and the grime artists are all about the streaming side of things. But what we do know for sure is that streaming will become the dominant way in which we listen to music, whether we like it or not. And I think it will actually make people money. A lot of people are scared that they go, oh, you only get paid half a pence for this, that and the other. Yeah, but when millions of people, as they will start to actually stream your music, that'll be quite a lot of half a pences.
I was just going to say one other thing to kind of wrap it up, because we're starting to run out of time, and you hit on it, and that is being informed, reading, knowing the history and knowing how it ties into now. That's like one thing that anyone can do before they come to BIMM, regardless of what course it is you're going to go on. You're just going to have such a huge step up in any sort of internship or placement or job. Even in the classroom, you're going to have such a leg up on everybody else coming in. That's crucial to know that stuff. It really
is. It's being curious, I would suggest.
Exactly.
I think if you're curious about how things work, why things are like they are, what was the past, I mean, you're going to get all sorts of opportunities here. Most people, I think most of the different degrees that we do here do these cultural perspectives things where you can put Motown into context and punk rock into context and Radiohead and everybody else and so on, as well as doing the future side of things, which I teach, which is, what does the music industry of tomorrow look like? What is virtual reality? How's virtual reality going to change the music industry? What's blockchain technology? Google that one, and it'll send you down a few rabbit holes for the next 10 hours. So it is that thing of being curious. And Google is your friend before you arrive at BIMM. It's amazing the amount of stuff that you can find out and arrive here full of questions and full of the sort of stuff you want to do. I think, being in charge of your own time is really important.
No, I completely. Could I recommend one more site? Just while we're thinking about that. I don't know if you know Digital Music News. Coming from the Silicon Valley, that to me is just, it comes directly into your inbox. You can sign up for it for free. It's absolutely brilliant.
Right.
Just it's the same sort of thing you're talking about with the turnover of people and places and technology. And then I have to just give a shout out to the Vinyl Factory, because vinyl is my thing. And yes, vinyl is having a huge resurgence right now. But it's to have those two, the yin and yang of it, the physical format and what's happening in the digital world. For me, that's like it's like peanut butter and jelly. It's the two things that go perfectly together and complement each other.
So Jen, what's the plural of vinyl?
Vinyl.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
Are
no
you
S.
Sure?
Were you putting an S on there,
All my
Phil?
students tell me that the plural of vinyl is vinyls. Are they right or are you right?
No, I am. Hey, I have the PhD, my love. So it's all me. So snap, snap, snap.
You're going to win that one, are you?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Excellent.
I think we're out of time now. But thank you so much. I've loved being down here. I think I might want to cut. Can I come to BIMM Brighton?
We'll allow you here 1 day a week.
1 day a week, that's it.
That's all you're going to get. We'll send you back on your train to London after that.
Well, thank you so much. It was great.
Thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed it.